let's be honest, Seann William Scott will always be Stifler. The good news is he's okay with that, but the American Pie star has done so much more on screen than gulp down a DNA-infused beer. Here's what he's been up to lately. Robin Williams in 1 Hour Photo, Kevin James in Becky, Rodney Dangerfield in Natural Born Killers. Hollywood isn't adverse to casting funny men as sociopaths, but even so, Seann William Scott as a guidance counselor by day, serial killer by night? As unlikely as it sounds, that really is the premise of the 2018 horror movie Bloodline. Nearly 20 years after playing a particularly obnoxious student in the first American Pie, Scott returned to the high school hallways, only this time as a figure of authority. Although he seems relatively normal on the surface, Evan Cole isn't exactly the kind of man you want advising troubled teens, because after he hears their tales of abuse, he sets out to seek vengeance the only way he knows how, gutting their perpetrators like a fish. Scott received rave reviews for playing against type, with the Los Angeles Times praising his performance. Of course, this wasn't the first time that Scott had tried to prove his serious actor credentials. In 2014, he appeared in Courtney Cox's directorial debut Just Before I Go, as a jilted husband who tries to put his affairs in order before committing suicide. Unfortunately for Scott, critics weren't so kind on this occasion, with Variety tepidly lauding him and describing the overall film as a, quote, dismal, tonally disastrous small-town farce. Actor Clayne Crawford's loss proved to be Seann William Scott's gain in 2018 when the American Pie star was cast in the third season of Fox's Lethal Weapon reboot. Crawford was fired from the buddy cop dramedy after clashing with co-star Damon Wayans. Scott was brought in to take over, but instead of simply assuming Crawford's role of Martin Riggs, he was given his own brand new character. Wesley Cole was an ex-CIA field officer and war veteran who relocated to Los Angeles to be with his son. Some critics believed that Scott's natural charm would help the show survive. Unfortunately, this didn't prove to be the case. Combined with a ratings dip, Fox appeared to have had enough of all the behind-the-scenes drama, and the show was taken off air after its 15-episode third season in 2019. Unlike most of his peers, Seann William Scott has always preferred to keep his private life strictly private. He must be one of the few youngish Hollywood stars without an Instagram profile, if you need any proof. But he took secrecy levels to new heights in 2019 when his rep confirmed that he'd walked down the aisle. However, Scott didn't confirm his spouse. The Bulletproof Monk star had previously told Us Weekly that he'd been dating somebody, but the only information he gave about her was that his fiancée was, quote, a great girl, and that the two of them were very happy. Of course, nothing in Tinseltown stays hush-hush for too long, and within a week of the news about his nuptials, the identity of the mysterious woman had been revealed. So who was the woman who'd captured the heart of a man renowned for playing insufferable horn dogs? The lucky lady was named by Page Six as Olivia Korenberg, an interior designer from Los Angeles. Perhaps unsurprisingly, no photos or indeed even any minor details have emerged yet from the big day. Olivia Korenberg may have been the first lady to walk down the aisle with Seann William Scott, but she wasn't the first to receive a proposal from the Hollywood star. Yes, 7 years before saying I do, the actor got engaged to Lindsay Fremote, a one-time model for Victoria's Secret, following a romantic beach getaway. And Scott, who was previously rumoured to have dated fellow Hollywood stars January Jones and Jamie King, couldn't stop gushing about his bride-to-be at the 2012 American reunion premiere shortly after. He told E! On the red carpet, I don't know how I got a girl like my fiancée. She hadn't seen American Pie. Thank God. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't be engaged. Perhaps a belated viewing of Stifler's frat boy antics did eventually give Fremote second thoughts, as within less than a year, the couple announced that the engagement was off. An insider who, of course, wished to remain anonymous, told Us Weekly that the split was an amicable one and that the pair, quote, remain friends. Tara Reid sure knows how to stir up trouble. In a 2019 interview with Us Weekly, the actress inferred that Seann William Scott and Jason Biggs were feuding when asked about a possible fifth installment of the American Pie franchise. However, the two men in question were left baffled when Reid said, quote, Seann and Jason have to get along. Indeed, Scott told the same magazine 6 months later that he's stayed closer to Biggs than any other star from the comedic series. In order to make sure that Biggs didn't harbour a secret grudge toward him, Scott got in touch with the man who shot to fame as the apple pie humping Jim. Scott started texting Biggs to make sure the two of them were still on good terms, and Biggs said they were. Scott also had this to say about his friendship with Biggs. "But yeah, Biggs and we love each other. We trade messages every once in a while." Seann William Scott isn't one of those actors who desperately tries to distance himself from his most famous roles. In a 2019 Reddit thread, the star revealed he'd be more than happy to return to not just one, but two of his classic comedies in the future. In fact, Scott seemed particularly excited about the prospect of joining forces with Ashton Kutcher again, revealing, "The world needs a Dude, Where's My Car sequel. It would be called, seriously, Dude, Where's My Car?"
Dude, where's my car? Where's your car, dude?
And he also expressed fond memories of his experiences shooting Role Models, saying he had a lot of fun on the set of that film and would love to, once again, work with co-star Paul Rudd. But for those who will always see Scott as the oversexed idiot Stifler, then there's also promising news. If a fifth American Pie is ever greenlit, the actor is fully on board. As he told MovieWeb in 2019, "I just think it's always funny to see Stifler at different stages of his life, so to see him in his mid-40s just sounds really funny to me." Seann William Scott is nothing if not honest. While promoting the sequel, Goon, Last of the Enforcers, in 2017, the actor was asked by Yahoo Movies why it had taken 3 years for him to appear in front of the camera again, and rather than make up some flimsy excuse, he gave an admirably candid answer. Scott admitted, "I'm not a guy who's ever had tons of offers. I've always had to fight for an opportunity, and so it's a risk. But I also don't want to do a bunch of movies that I know are gonna suck." However, Scott also explained that there was another reason why he isn't as much of a presence at the movies as he was back at the turn of the century, saying, "In the beginning of my career, they were making way more comedies. There was a real appetite for comedy. They're not making as many as they did in the beginning of my career. Back then, I had more opportunities."
I don't really want to die. I'm a noble rabbit.
Goon might not have broken any box office records on its 2011 release. In fact, it only grossed $7 million on a budget of $12 million. But as more and more fans of Canadian ice hockey comedies discovered its charms on DVD and streaming services, the movie developed a cult following. And by 2015, enough demand had grown for producers to greenlight a sequel. This time around, though, its leading man wasn't prepared to put on extra weight for the role. In a 2017 interview with Wonderwall to promote Goon, Last of the Enforcers, Seann William Scott admitted that he deliberately overindulged in both food and alcohol to bulk up for the part of Doug the Thug Glatt in the original. However, he found it so tough to ditch the extra pounds that he turned down the opportunity to stuff his face once more. A complete unknown when he auditioned for the part that would catapult him to fame across the globe, Seann William Scott was offered just $8,000 to play Stifler in American Pie, the gross-out comedy which would rake in a colossal $235.5 million worldwide. Of course, by the time that the gang reunited for the belated fourth installment of the comedic franchise, Scott was in a much better position to negotiate. Indeed, with over a dozen box office hits to his name, the actor was able to command a far more impressive $5 million for reprising his most popular character, according to The Hollywood Reporter. Furthermore, Scott also reportedly stipulated that he wanted a small percentage of the 2012 film's profits. And with American Reunion making almost exactly the same amount as American Pie, he enjoyed quite the payday. The Hollywood star appears to have been relatively sensible with his earnings too. According to Celebrity Net Worth, he still has a cool $25 million to his name. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more Nicki Swift videos about your favourite celebrities are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.